And listeners of expert discussion, the topic of which dedicated to one of the priority tasks of territorial communities. Today we are talking about how communities can plan recovery and development of local economy. The organizer of the event is USAID program and DOBRE program, who is actually working on economic development together with the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. I would like to remind you that DOBRE program works in Ukraine since 2016 until 2022. They are partners with 100 of communities of Ukraine, and I would like to mention that the results of DOBRE program are well noticed in the communities. For example, in the communities partners, we can see co-working and public spaces, workshops, and agricultural cooperatives, and all of that was created with the help of the program, but most probably this is an individual approach of the program to local economic development. And also the program, based on their own many years of experience, they developed a unified methodology of local economic development. It's a very in-depth work. The program analyzed all the 6-year experience, made this systematic. They added questions, they added interviews about what topics, what tools, and how they were shown on certain stage of economic development, and all of that is presented in 2 reports of the program. So today you will hear a lot of different things. And today we have almost 50 representatives of local self-governments from different oblasts of Ukraine, regional journalists. Greetings, colleagues, to each one of you. And approximately at 12:30, you will be able to ask questions to the speakers. Now I would like to invite to the word the person whose name is always mentioned where certain work is being done and where we have certain results. The head of the programs for development of local self-government and decentralization of power of the United States Agency for International Development, Marat Krychevsky. Hello, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It was unexpected. Dear guests and partners, I am really pleased to be here today on this very important discussion, planning of economic development of communities during war and post-war periods, and to represent the USAID in Ukraine, which is actually supporting DOBRE program and its implementation during all those years. And of course, using the opportunity, I would like to thank straight away those who organized the program and DOBRE program, our good partner, Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, for raising such an important topic as economic development of communities under the situation, like present situation, military situation during military time, war time, and also post-war recovery. The importance of economic development does not require some special additional reasons, because this is the axiom, this is one of the main capacities of the community, how they can fill in the budget of the community. And of course, the efficient policy of local economic development is part of having a good budget. It means that the community will have money in order to improve the quality of services, improving the appearance of the community even, and ensuring the necessary level of social services, municipal services, possibility of recreation for the citizens, and at the end, improving the life in communities. And what is especially important in our 2 days life is the opportunity even to help the armed forces of Ukraine. If the communities have the opportunity, they have financial possibilities in their budgets. And the problem of filling in the budget was always relevant. It is relevant everywhere in any country of the world, in any community, not only in Ukraine. And of course, it used to be relevant in Ukraine for our communities in the process of decentralization reform and establishment of communities, and they are going to the new format of work and administrative and territorial part of the country during the decentralization. And of course, we had certain difficult moments in this process, and not all the communities are capable even as of today, I mean at the beginning of war and now even during the war. However, we in USAID made a lot in our projects, and we paid attention to such issues as local economic development. Our mission of USAID in Ukraine, we have a separate office of economic growth, which is working on development of agrarian sectors, small enterprises and business, economic support of Ukraine. However, I would like to mention that the issue of economic development and economic growth is present in different programs of USAID, even those that at the first glance, they are not focused on this very issue. The issue of economic development is in the programs for youth development, which USAID is working with, also in local self-governments and decentralization reform, even prevention of human trafficking, and so on. Because economic growth, economic issues, they are present in all of those target audiences, all of those programs. DOBRE program, which is financed by the USAID, they are the biggest confirmation of that, so to say, and during all the time, the program itself and its base is aiming at strengthening the local self-governments, especially in the process of implementation of decentralization reform, however, not only. And of course, it is clear that economic development, local economic development, has always been one of the central components of the program. In the framework of the DOBRE program, we were developing the plans of local economic development. We were implementing various projects in the communities that are aiming at increasing economic capabilities of the communities. We organized educational tours, as it was mentioned already. We were helping with equipping both local markets and also creating cooperatives. So a lot of best practices, various best practices we were implementing in our communities, and we gained a lot of experience, and we were sharing that multiple times before, and I hope that these best practices, they have to actually have the opportunity to be implemented, in particular also on the today's stage, and especially in the process of recovery, post-war recovery of our communities. Of course, war made its amendments, and somewhere as replacing people in the country, relocation of businesses. In some communities, there are more of those. And from one side, it's a very good moment because additional active economic population, relocated businesses, they create opportunities for economic growth of certain communities. However, again, they create also additional issues regarding ensuring or providing proper quality of services in these communities and ensuring them with the resources that are necessary for the business structures who were relocated actually, or the population who were dislocated to other communities. So of course, some businesses are leaving certain regions, so the issue of post-war recovery will be treated by different communities differently, but we have to have a complex vision on economic map of Ukraine, and we have to see the specialization of certain regions, maybe specialization of certain communities. What are the best recipes and methodologies should be used in the communities where there is even maybe too much economic potential or working force? And what do we do with the communities that are deoccupied or they are close to the front line that will be suffering more from aggression of our enemy? And the question is, how do we recover economic life in those communities? How do we create conditions in order to create the new businesses or return the business that was relocated? How do we create the jobs for people so that they can return, including creating proper conditions for the life of people? Because people will return to places where there's opportunity to live, work, and have a normal level of life. And community is, first of all, people. And therefore, today's discussion, today's meeting is incredibly important, and I will be really glad to participate. And with pleasure, I will be really glad that our colleagues can represent the results of our work in the framework of DOBRE program. We will be able to hear about the opportunities or the vision that is there in central bodies, especially the Ministry of Recovery, and from our communities who are implementing certain projects, and they have big plans for the future. also. So I encourage all the participants to participate actively in this discussion and not to be shy, express your ideas, and just get enriched from each other, and at least some features, some directions for development of our future, for our communities and their future economic potential, just to see that. Wish you good luck in the work. Thank you very much, Mr. Kurchevsky. Those who are watching us live, and it is on the webpage of Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and also so you can write in comments your questions, and I will try to ask them at the end. So we move on. The main body in the central executive bodies who are implementing the policy of local development is the Ministry of Development of Communities. And if we are talking about local self-governments at the most, the authorities who are the closest to people, they should ensure the quality of services, as Mr. Murat mentioned. So they can do that if the communities are capable economically and whose interests they are representing. So we have Ms. Natalia Agnedyuk, Advisor of Vice Prime Minister on Recovery, Minister of Development of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure of Ukraine. Greetings to you, Ms. Natalia. What are the main messages of the Ministry of Infrastructure that they would like to bring to the communities? First of all, I would like to thank from the Ministry for the opportunity to be part of this discussion today. And of course, I would like to stop on a few important priorities that indeed can and they will help. We are confident they will help to build the systemic work if we are talking about the local economic development. If you allow me, I would like to start with the planning documents that, of course, are necessary not only in local self-governments, but also for the businesses. And we are going to talk about external or internal investors, for example. I think that, first of all, local self-governments should be understandable from the point of view where and how do they plan their development. And here we are talking about these planning documents that are being developed under the regional policy as well as under the urban development that are on base of recovery, post-war rebuilding, as Mr. Murat mentioned. So, of course, we cannot speak about rebuilding if we don't talk about systemic document that can become unified for the ministry in general, for local authorities, as well as local self-governments. This is state strategy of regional development. We all remember that it was developed in 2020, and now we are updating it. And I would like to mention that, as a matter of fact, we don't have any other body, like from state or local self-governments, who are not interested in its implementation, because everybody is interested. Of course, we have the aggression from this side of Russia. However, we have new challenges and opportunities that are there for our communities. We are talking about updating the strategy. Ministry really hopes, as of today, the process of consultations came to an end. We would like to thank everybody, absolutely, to local self-governments, to oblast administrations, because they brought really good offers. But what did the ministry want to see? Of course, to take into account the challenges, of course, to look at these new conditions that might become key for the development of a separate region, as well as separately taken territorial community. Take into account that based on the functions of different territories, we know that it will be the base for choosing the tools. We have to say that for each type of functional territory, the tools might be different, or the stories of success might be different, and this has to be taken into account both on national and regional levels, and also local level or community level. And here we can talk about everything: investment policy, about updated smart specialization approach, or the new directions of development that might become this economic driver on the level of territorial communities. And as Mr. Murat mentioned, in development of each community or territory always will be people, new jobs, and local economy. And that is what will be the base for constructing everything else. So updating this state strategy, we would like to look at these changes that are expecting us based on negotiations with the EU, because state policy is the important tool which is opening for us the door to Europe. So reforming certain institutions and certain procedures, we were setting up the ground for building a strong system on regional level of territorial communities in order for them to become strong partners for the future cost from European funds. A third important document that now is in the work of not only ministry but the whole government, I think that it is spoken about by absolutely everyone. This is a plan of Ukraine development is made within the framework of Ukraine facility. Next week, the Ministry of Recovery, together with the Ministry of Economy and the key ministry, will start consultations both on national and regional levels. But what I would like to mention straight away, I am pleasantly surprised. I opened the recommendations that were processed by DOBRE project, and I would like to mention that the ministry is putting an aim to offer the tool that will allow to support or to offer financial tool for supporting recovery projects. And this is actually the first recommendation that was formulated here from the DOBRE project. And I hope that it's the essence, the core from the local self-governments. But if we are talking about the Ukraine plan, then actually we have to understand that both regions and territorial communities, they should use the opportunities that will be useful not only for regional policies. Important blocks are green economy, energy efficiency. Huge blocks will be everything related to business environment, because this is actually the base. I will return to Mr. Murat. This will involve new money that is so important for local self-governments and, of course, for returning people to return to regional communities so that the communities can develop further on. I cannot omit with my attention that the only tool as of today that allows to make certain compensations from the fund of liquidation of the consequences of Russian aggression. We truly hope that this tool, which now is being implemented also via the TRIM system, will continue, because it confirmed the efficiency of its use, especially via local self-government. The ministry considers that the biggest success of TRIM can be considered that 80% that were submitted by local self-governments are being supported at the cost of the funds from the foundation, and this work has to continue. Moreover, the system TRIM itself, which is the base for recovery, it allows not only to work, I dare say, in the unified ecosystem. I really like this word, which recently gained totally different sense when forming the state policy, but this TRIM system allows us to be predictable, transparent for absolutely everyone, for the state to be transparent for local self-governments, for donors, in given case for USAID and any other partner in development who is ready to support our initiatives. But this is also a very good tool in order to be clear for those who want to develop their business or to start business on the level of territorial communities. I guess that it's very important also to pay attention to the fact that the ministry and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Development of Communities and Territories, so we have also in the government very powerful bloc which is engaged in economic tools. And in spite of this, the ministry founded initiative which was supported by the businesses. We had good feedback from businesses because we have founded the work of Business Advisory Group, the special group that now already includes more than 600 of business representatives. And with them, we are processing the aspects that I wouldn't like to say that they are standing on our way, but we can simplify these things in order for the business to come to Ukraine faster, come to Ukraine both on regional and the community level. Therefore, this direction is also considered very important from the point of view of recovery that will allow us to open new fields for development of both the local economic growth and also development of industry. And I guess very important, because the main partner today is very big, as Murat mentioned, the project of technical support, which is working already more than 6 years. And they have incredible success, and they are well known in the communities that did not even become partner communities, because I know that there are communities that would like to become partners, but they cannot do that already. The Ministry of Recovery, together with the project CLEAR, are creating the system that will allow to synchronize work with donors and territorial communities, so that we can show the communities that really need, I would like to say, the stronger support and love from the side of donors, so that to a certain extent, because now we have a lot of such partners who are coming, new partners are coming on bilateral cooperation via the embassies, who are ready to support the soft projects and hard projects, and they are looking for the communities that really need a strong, let us say so, like mass support in such fields as investments, local economic development, implementation of digital tools, project management, because this is actually the base to become closer to the European Union first, and also to maximal use of existing resources. So with the CLEAR project, we truly hope that till the end of the month, maybe in the first decade of November, we will launch the updated tool that will allow, both from the point of view of geography and from the point of view of tools, because sometimes donors are using various tools. For example, DOBRE program is known due to the tools of local economic development, or the tools of supporting and provisioning services, so that the communities can use that. And from the other side, the donors or partners who are coming to us, they also can use this tool. I'm really glad, also just like Murat mentioned, to join the discussion, to listen the offers that might be taken into account by the ministry. And of course, I would like to repeat myself, we would love next week in the nearest few weeks to have a good opportunity to work with local self-governments, with the relevant projects of technical support, in order to take into account everything needed for implementing the plan for recovery of Ukraine. And this will be the main document for recovery now during the war and the post-war recovery. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Natalia. Now I would like to give the floor to the person who, in my opinion, almost like personally visited each community partner, and from the half of word understands the needs in the community. Probably that is why DOBRE program is has high results. So Brian Campbell, head of USAID DOBRE program.
Thank you all for coming today. Hello, I'm glad to see you here. I just want to make a very few comments. You've heard a lot about the work, and you'll hear more about the work of the DOBRE program in the area of local economic development. DOBRE was conceived by USAID with the mission of helping the newly formed territorial communities meet the challenges of decentralization and take advantage of the opportunities. And DOBRE has been working, as you've heard, since 2016 with a number of communities, over 100 in that direction. And in the first 6 years, this was prior to the invasion by Russia, the communities had a lot of success in all areas of cooperation, and including local economic development. Over that time, DOBRE developed a methodology that we've talked about to help communities undertake initiatives to promote their own economic development. The methodology is very systematic, clear, practical, empirical, and it's been refined over the 6 years that DOBRE worked with communities. It's easy for communities to use. I think the guides that you see are very good guides on how to apply what we've learned for the benefit of the community. We have two goals that we've pursued. One is to help improve governance in communities, to help communities adopt good practices of governance, open, accountable, efficient, empirical, objective decision-making. but also to include citizens in the process and encourage citizens and create conditions where citizens are encouraged to take part in decision-making, to provide their own comments and suggestions and so forth. In connection with this methodology, we follow those two ideas very closely. The methodology is consistent with good governance. It encourages openness and objective analysis and clear identification of the community's priorities, but it also encourages an inclusive process so that the decision is informed by the needs of the community as expressed by the residents. And as concerns local economic development, it's important to have the business community involved. One of these volumes today talks about that. It is good to have the businesses involved because the process brings to light that in fact the local government and the business community have a lot of common interests. Clearly the businesses are benefited if the local government undertakes actions to encourage economic activity and create conditions for development and prosperity. And it's clear that the government benefits when businesses are doing well and creating jobs and so forth. So the process is best when businesses are involved in the process, and it brings out sort of the best in the situation. And I think that's one of the reasons why the methodology has been so successful. We have lots of examples of success, and I would encourage communities to communicate with each other and learn from each other. The other point I want to make is, of course, before the invasion by Russia, communities we worked with were looking ahead, developing new projects, looking to the future. I'm happy to say that our partner communities are still looking to the future. They're still planning for the future. But at the same time, we see that in many cases, the projects that they are developing concern recovery, addressing damage or consequences, harm caused by the war or changes. But I can tell you that the methodology works just as well in those circumstances as before, because it leaves up to the community the role of defining the priorities and needs, and then helps the community take the next steps to address them. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you, Mr. Ryan, and we start getting questions, but we will address the questions later. But you should know that we see your questions and we will mention those, of course. Now it will be very useful to hear the representatives of territorial communities about what the situation is and what are the challenges there in development of local economy, what support now is mostly needed, or in the nearest time is mostly needed, and why, without the local businesses, it will be very hard to speak about the recovery of economy. I would like to give the floor to Ratan Akhmetov, the head of Koryukiv community, Chernihiv Oblast. I would like to remind you that they are 30 kilometers from the border with Russia, border with our enemy, and more than 40 days they were cut from the external world. So it is obvious that they have enough problems there. Mr. Ratan, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. I would like to clarify that Koryukiv community is bordering with the temporarily occupied Bryansk, and this is 30 kilometers from the border, and the community, yeah, we are bordering with that. So this is the main challenges of today, with the fact that we have large-scale war and we are in the zone that might be damaged by artillery, and we know that we have to be ready for that all the time. So here the signal of air alert doesn't work. And for 40 days of occupation, it showed us our vulnerable places. Thanks to DOBRE program, we started addressing these weak parts. And I would like to thank the program for, now we are implementing one project which will help the business also to develop. And we are recovering the work of our bread plant. It will be modernized. It will become more updated, so to say. And we see in Kharkiv that our enemy is working in big bridges, and our community and some neighboring communities are separated, so to say, from the big Ukraine with big bridges, we understand that this risk is existing. And thanks to cooperation with the program this year, we will just make this risk much smaller. I would like to say that recovery is not just rebuilding. We know that recovery is to break the plans of our enemies and the business that is working in Korykiv community. We do not hope for foreign investor. The best and the most reliable investor of Korykiv community has always been Korykiv business, because it's been developing, and I'm really happy that slowly, but it recovered. Implementation of the projects that we used to have in 2021 that were founded in 2021, the city and the community are helping these businesses. For example, even during the year, 3 or 4 land plots were sold on the auction. We never were practicing such tools. However, during the last year, we started practicing that. Business is getting the plot for developing business. The community gets the guarantee that in a few years they will get the money for the land plot, not straight away. However, we have certain development, we have jobs. The business is changing, and this is also like participation in recovery, because if we take logistics, we look at the map, then we are at the edge of geography, and if the enterprises are good, then logistically it's very expensive for them to supply their products through the western border. So now I see that business is taking a kilo of wheat, and they are equaling that to a kilo of meat. This reduces the expenses. However, it has even better economic effect. And these huge piles with grain, like we are temporarily preserving the grain, step by step, they are made in other products. Like we have different components in our oblast, like we are processing meat, milk, and so on. And I would like to thank also DOBRE program for stimulating small enterprises to founding their businesses, and also those, I am talking about Korykiv community, those who had been working in the community already, and they received such a, so to say, push to move forward. Women and female work is now really appreciated. So many people are trying to make some automatization in order to make this work easier, and in order for these small enterprises to be able to work further on in our community. Our businesses were not relocated. One used to be relocated during winter, but now they returned to Korykiv community, and I am happy that this business trusts us. They trust Korykiv and they trust Ukraine, because 30 kilometers from the border, not many people would be brave enough to invest. And this business does. And this is a sign that we are moving in the right direction. As for the plans for the nearest future, we are planning in local economic development. The whole budget that we have in Korykiv community, we reviewed the budget and we thought where we can get the money, like in the local businesses. So for example, all the expenses for heating, earlier the part of gas, there was naphtha gas, and they said that it's Ukrainian gas. Earlier it was the import. However, in these 2 years, the previous year and this year, more than 50% of the city are on local heating. And this, in our community, brings more than 20 million hryvnias that we were paying externally. They are staying with us, and these are jobs. And in multiplier, we were calculating that it's up to 40 jobs that were created thanks to the fact that we have local heating. And this will continue, because we need to decentralize the issue of heat supply and energy supply as well, power supply, because we have the capacities to produce some power, electricity, and this will also create new jobs. As for the recovery plans, I am understanding that our base is changing every day, because what we can see that our infrastructure has been destroyed every day. I would like these plans, like philosophic plans, that they see the future, so to say, but our task for the near 3, 5, 6 months, we are setting up the task so that we become more resilient to the challenges that are brought by our enemy, and to break the enemy's plans is also our input to the victory. So the more resilient we are to harming the energy infrastructure, to the fact that the amounts of international support are reducing, the better our armed forces will manage to do their tasks and move Ukraine to victory. Glory to Ukraine. You mentioned about plans, but you did not mention what help is needed, maybe from the state, maybe from the project. Is that done on purpose? Well, as for the help or support, I can mention a lot of things, but now we concentrated on 2 issues. The first one is to preserve economically active population, because if you lose people, you lose everything. And DOBRE program is already working with us, and I would ask to develop further on such thing as micro grants, because maybe even people who were engaged in business but not really legally, they formalize their activities. So this is about some everyday services, and the same we can say if there is the opportunity for bigger businesses, especially those who had some negative consequences, especially it's true for agriculture and personal work in agricultural field. As for the energy infrastructure, state support is also felt. We will implement 2 projects, one of which is construction of the city clearing structures that were planned long ago. The implementation started in 2021. This year we will finalize this thanks to financing from the recovery fund. However, each community has own needs. And if we move 100 kilometers from Kharkiv to the other part of Ukraine, they have their own challenges. And I understand that, for example, in the community in Uzhhorod, they have less issues with the workforce. However, they have more issues. How do they provide housing for people who are displaced? And energy infrastructure, because our task is to protect people and to keep our people with us, because there's less Ukrainians than we have our enemies, and especially in pre-front villages. Now we are trying hard in order to react, and with the first challenges, like in the neighboring communities, these people can be displaced to the safer settlements. However, these settlements have to be in Kharkiv community, because this is our workforce. And if we lose people, we will lose business that works with these people as of today. Thank you very much, Mr. Ratan. You mentioned properly that in different communities they have different challenges, different needs. So we move on. Znamensk community, Kirovohrad Oblast, almost 4,000 displaced people, and bigger half of that are people who can work and they need to have work. Men who are working in local enterprises, mostly they went to defend Ukraine, and refugees there are in the communities. Therefore, the situation is unstable. However, in the base of all stabilization processes, actually there should be local economic development. Therefore, I invite Liana Borislavchenko, Deputy Head on Activity of Executive Body Znamensk Community. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. What can I mention is that our community has 27.6 thousand of population, and with our approximate calculations, up to 5,000 left after the beginning of full-scale war, looking for a job and in order to save themselves from war. You mentioned properly that up to 4,000 of displaced people, 1.8 are people who can still work. And understanding that local economic development is very important for development of the community. And I think all the self-government bodies, we also understand that the main task of local self-government is, first of all, to return people to Ukraine. And secondly, is to provide jobs for temporarily displaced persons who move to our communities. With these challenges faced many territories. Many territories faced that, and we tried to resolve that. From the beginning of war, we started a business hub that is acting, and the tax service and Center for Employment and representatives of economic department and central administration. They were providing consultations to everyone who wanted to start their own businesses, and we thank DIA program, DIA work, who provided us with such opportunities. And I always mention that it's the first time since the independence of Ukraine when, in order to found your own business, the state was giving grant funds. You just need to know how to take them and how to use. In addition to that, we were giving practical knowledge, and we were ready to ensure the moderators and supervision, so to say, on all the stages from registration to writing the grant project, submitting application, and so on. Second thing is that we've been working with our socially responsible businesses, and we are totally glad that they heard us. They have done some work with representatives and announced their opportunities. In 2022, they opened in their premise business hub where they created 20 rooms. And at the time of war, they were all busy. First of all, those are displaced people who had certain skills. They opened their business offices, they got registered, and it was a good sign for us because in 2022, we have 3 legal undertakings that were registered and up to 20 private entrepreneurs. It's a good signal for us, meaning that there are opportunities and they are run now. Now, this is time when there's an opportunity to create a business. And one more direction that we were using in this plan, we created registry for relocated businesses, and we are offering that also for local businesses who are looking for the premises or land plots. We have this database when we are providing it. People can understand where they can find some niche for their business. However, we have challenges, yes, and without state support and state help, we won't be able to cope with that. I really thank you for showing the map of the general plan of our city. I mentioned that our city is pretty small, and there is already understanding that our city is attractive in terms of investments because we have a huge logistics station. However, if you can see to the north in the gray parts, this is the other community. Unfortunately, the acting legislation doesn't allow us to agree upon our boundaries because it is provided for that the boundaries are agreed by the communities. However, we can see that in Znamenka, they agree to provide the residential part. However, the enterprises that are there, like the gray part on the map, this is a territory of the neighboring community, and we cannot impact the development. We cannot encourage investors to development of these territories because, first of all, we don't have motivation because all the taxes are going to the different community. and we don't have some levers of impact, and now there are such collapses that, for example, that there is construction of one of the enterprises. Yeah, we understood the core of the challenge. So you think that the state will cope better with the task? Well, the offer is the following. If during like 20 years of conducting negotiation procedure between the communities involving state oblast administration, they did not allow to regulate this issue, next, there should be the state involved. From the point of view of technical and economic reasoning, like how the community should be developed. Yeah, we heard you. What are the other challenges? Because our time is limited. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like we have like some limitations because it's different territory. And if this enterprise is harmful, they say it won't come to us. Yeah, Ms. Liana, we understood that the problem is serious. It's very serious. And by the way, it's one of the opportunities because on those enterprises where up to 5,000 of population of Znamensk community were working. And the second issue I would like to address because it's a unique idea and we are grateful for development dream platform when all the projects are transparent and accessible both for the ministries and for external donors. However, the communities have a problem with the fact that, yeah, we do understand that the projects might be seen already when there is some documentation on the project, hard price, and so on and so forth. However, even now, before the meeting, I just reviewed this platform, the number of projects and the need in implementation. First of all, not all the communities will have financial resources in order to make the documentation for the project. Secondly, even if it exists, editing that in order to be relevant for the needs of the investor is distracting funds from the local budget. And when the communities don't have understanding, like what is the percentage from our number of projects can be financed, it is very hard for us to figure out what projects should be taken and what are the priorities from the state, from the donors, during like selection of these projects. So I have the following offer: somehow determine and help local communities not to waste local resources for calculating like each documentation for each project, because it's inefficient use of money from the local budgets, and that's not right. About the communities and the budgets. Thank you very much, Ms. Liana. Thank you very much for mentioning the challenges, and then the state will understand how to help you. So I'd like to thank for the opportunity to participate in this discussion panel, and I would like to thank DOBRE program because this is thanks to their support and the opportunity to work on the program products. We have more clear understanding of our investment attractiveness and forming investment projects and in general economic development. Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to remind you that we are talking about challenges that are there when developing local economy and how to involve businesses. And actually in Kirovohrad Oblast, in Priyutiv community, they are working on supporting small enterprises for 2024. This information I read in open sources. Moreover, I know that they consider the opportunity to provide money from local budget in order to support. So today we have the head of Priyutiv community, Andrei Kolomitsev. The floor is yours. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to thank you very much for providing me with the opportunity to participate in such an important discussion. And I would like to confirm the thesis, I guess, about the fact that the success of the community is impossible without local economic development. And in given case, I would like to continue what Ms. Natalia started saying. It was very pleasant for me to hear that today she mentioned that today we have editing of the state strategy. It is clear that without the strategy, without the state strategy, it's impossible to form good and qualitative regional strategy. And of course, it's impossible to form the strategy of the territorial community without it. Unfortunately, we were not observing the strategy before the 24th of February 2022. Of course, today we understand even worse the prospects for development, and we don't understand as a community, we don't understand where we should pay attention. However, having the strategy of economic development on the state level, and I've been always paying attention to this fact with my colleagues on regional level, we understood how our mining industry will be developed. And for Kirovohrad, it's very important. We don't understand how, as of today, education is being developed, because the state is putting all the responsibility to local self-governments, and the local self-governments in this case are feeling a bit uncomfortable because we don't understand how the energy of Ukraine will be developed, where we should direct our enterprises, what kind of energy we have to develop nowadays, and do we need to mine some things that might be used for the energy, or today we have to pay attention to alternative energy, but we also want the state also to take some responsibility and to respond for their actions, performing the responsibilities that they undertook when they were talking to investors, taking into account the limitations that are acting in regions, territorial communities. These are strategies like executing some construction projects. In simple words, these are the small ones, you know. So we would like, of course, to have more clear strategy on the level of the state, and we can rely on that when developing our enterprises. We are really worried by the issue of mining, because so we see that the Alexandria region, Kirovohrad Oblast, they were mining coal, and now they are suffering. So we want to understand how interesting it is for the state to mine coal, or whether it's possible to process that for something. Is the state interested in investing money and guaranteeing the investors to perform their obligations? Is the state ready to ensure some issues for the investors? And what is the future of mining in Ukraine in general, and the mines that we have on the territory of our community? We want to know about their future. And today, I would like also to mention a very important issue, which is disturbing our territorial community. I would like to support my colleague that each territorial community has different challenges, and on the territory of our community, there are more than 6,000 hectares of land of state enterprises and educational institutions. And as of today, they are of no use for the territorial community. This is quite a big space. It's 10% from all the area of our land, which is agricultural lands. And I can add 30% of own income if we use the land efficiently. As of today, the lands are used, and we see that probably, my assumption is that lands are used not really according to their target designation. I don't want to blame anyone. It's not my function. However, the fact that community is not getting anything from that, we understand that for local producers, those might be interesting objects in order to produce agricultural products. And I hope that about agricultural products we will see in the strategy, state strategy, whether it is worth to redo that, to amend that, or we have to implement that. I am also confident that these big state enterprises that are carriers of state land and who are not on the territory of the community, I would like to mention, but they are in different regions, I guess they might be really cool and attractive investment objects for big enterprises who are interested in investing funds to growing agriculture products and processing agriculture products, maybe in breeding animals and so on. For our communities, this is a very relevant issue, and unfortunately, when we want to resolve the issue of target use of land, or when we are trying to involve the taxation and so on from the state, we see significant resistance. This is our challenges of today, and we are working on that. Thank you. You mentioned that the issues that are on your way to developing the economy. You say that you don't know how the education will be developed and the energy field and many others. How do you see the dialogue, so to say, with the state and local self-governments in the state, how the state should bring you the information, how that would be better for you, maybe more clear? Maybe you have some offers. The offer is to receive a good strategy of development of our country, of Ukraine, for the nearest prospects, and probably from the state we would like to get the guarantees that the state will stick to these strategies. It's important for any investor, I guess, who wants to put in big money. And if we are talking about the big objects, those are big money. An investor wants to be insured, so to say, from some legal issues, so that there will be some determination in the legal field. All investments have to be protected, and the investor has to understand that in the prospects or in the term of this investment project, the state will perform all the obligations. Thank you very much, and we move on. Recommendations on planning of local economic development. What experience of communities partners DOBRE till 2022 can be useful for during martial law. I would like to invite consultant on planning, Markian Datsishin. He is online with us. Greetings to you, Mr. Markian. The floor is yours. Hello. Tell me, please, whether you can see, we can hear. Thank you very much. So just a few clarifications, actually. My colleague and I, we were conducting with Petro Lazarchuk together one study. We have certain slides, and I would like to show some key results or some assessments that had been done, and then Petro will speak in details about recommendations. So this study was conducted in the mid-2022. It doesn't take into account all the events that happened lately and those adaptation processes that happen. The task of the methodology of local economic development in the framework of DOBRE program were such 4 blocks of tasks, and actually pre-war time, before the full-scale invasion, and especially after February 2022, the key challenge for local economic development was loss of citizens, because what was mentioned actually by Mr. Ratan and Ms. Liana, and the reasons were the migration outflow, and especially it was felt by village communities, and after February 2022, this outflow of people was felt in all the communities, actually, including Western Ukraine. As a result, we have, let us say, a really problematic, if not catastrophic, situation in age pyramid. So this is what we see with the absence of the state statistic data, because we are using the data of people who are choosing the doctors, family doctors. So these assumptions can be considered as results about age and workforce. So this is a problem for Ukraine in general. This is a problem for the oblast whose representatives we heard today. Now we can see on the screen highlighting this demographic pit, that is citizens who can work. Their number is much less. And this is a challenge for local economic development due to a few reasons. First of all, this is the population who can work, and it's when they are working on their own business or they start their professional career, there's internal demand because people like elder people, they are not inclined to waste their funds. And this is infantile age when they are getting married and the children are born. In most communities, it looks the same, and I allowed myself to select the communities representatives of which were just speaking before. So the representation is different, but the key accent, which was mentioned during the previous speeches, that without resolving the problem of returning local citizens to community and integration of IDPs who are now on the territory of community, it will be very problematic to speak about prospects of local economic development. And actually, our study that had been conducted in 2022, it had been happening by questioning the community representatives from 6 oblasts, those who could answer the relevant questionnaire. And also we conducted in-depth interviews with 22 consultants from Danimer, and that was about tourism, designers of public spaces, cooperatives, as well as program specialists of the DOBRE program who were working in fields, in communities, so this is not like representative study, however, under the conditions that we had and under those circumstances, we put much effort in order to be able with certain eligibility to treat the results. In general, positive assessments dominate of representatives of communities. About how the program was working on local economic development. Out of the tools that were provided by the program, the biggest support was received. Those were not the money, that was not the money or grants, but the other support was mentioned is consultation support, services of the consultants that the communities received in the process of preparation of the program of local economic development. That is, this is the confirmation of the fact that it is not always the money that is most important. This is what the answers from the participants show. We also questioned the representatives of first, second, fourth, and fifth groups because we mentioned that not always communities are partners of DOBRE programs. So we had communities who had 1, 2, and even 3 projects implemented. So we asked, according to the fact of implementation, what was most useful for your community? And again, here is a very interesting indicator that the most important result of those first small, like not multi-million projects, it was improved communication between the local businesses and authorities. So as a matter of fact, the component of local economic development of DOBRE program, probably it's like the first time when local authorities and business representatives tried to speak about some joint future. This only happened before the large-scale invasion. I would like to remind you one more time, and it had certain effects. So professional orientation of school youth, and these were also very important consequences. Summing up the study that we have done, some key important things that are relevant both for challenges of the wartime. So the challenges are as following: leadership and active position of the heads of local authorities. That is, if we see the understanding and what is most important, active position. And we have examples from our communities partners. This is Khotin community, where the city had developed very active activity in municipal diplomacy. And as a matter of fact, via municipalities, other municipalities, they involved some support for IDPs who were in their community, and they also improved some economic connections based on investment passport that was prepared in the framework of DOBRE program and the HIP-founded initiative on creating the park and the industrial park, and therefore this purpose he involved municipality from France who have relevant industrial park of similar functioning. So they had international connections in the framework of brothership with the municipalities from other countries. This is efficiently working for economic goals. Moderation of interest of all the interested parties. This is a very difficult story because the first meetings very often in the communities they ended up with like loud speaking voice, if not some scandals. So we have to talk about different things. Then capabilities, what Ms. Natuk and Mr. Murat mentioned. In order to work with the project applications, to involve some external financial resources, when we are talking about these capabilities, it is very important to mention here the IDPs who, in certain communities, for example, I just recall Capuchin community, even though they are not a partner of DOBRE, but it is headed by Bogdan Kilichavi, who is the carrier of the ideology of DOBRE program. They involved in their community. Kharkiv found Smile or Posmishka, who helps them to involve international technical support also for economic development of their community. In the context of capabilities, it is also very important to mention the school youth. And in the framework of the component of this study, were a few projects aiming at creating the school communities. Those are like the workshops that are helping with the professional orientation and also involving school youth to some local issues. How much time do you need more, Markian? The last slide, and I am ending. So accessibility of data, one more very important issue because it should be evidence-based. We have problems with data on the level of communities, and this problem has started much earlier. Now it is especially acute because having no relevant data, it is very hard to make efficient decisions. And then also involving external expertise and relevant external knowledge and consultations. Just a few quotes from our interviews that, let us say, so one is most relevant about the fact that the program helped various communities to work together. We are talking about those who were under occupation or in the gray zone or on the frontline zone, and those who were in rear end. They had a synergy, they had mutual support, that was founded in the framework of this component. That's it from my side, and then I give the floor further on to the studio. Thank you. Thank you very much. And next we are talking what tools of involvement businesses to the processes of recovery of communities are used by the partner communities of USAID DOBRE, and also support of local businesses. I would like to invite the project manager of the program, Volodymyr Krzyżaniewski. Pearl. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to being here and present results of my study. I would like, especially at the beginning, I would like to mention that so to say, the main task, the main component, like local economic development of DOBRE program was increasing capacities of local self-governments. That is the work with businesses. This was not some kind of main task of the component. However, as Markian mentioned in his speech, we also saw and we understood that working in development of local economy, it's impossible without local businesses. Therefore, correspondingly, we prepared the study in order to show what kind of results in the field of involvement and support of development of businesses are there. Actually, if we are talking about the fact what kind of tools of USAID DOBRE program was involved in order to work with local businesses, we can divide that into two stages. The first one is planning of local economic development, and second is performing some actions. So if we are talking about planning, then as a matter of fact, each community had a working group from local economic development, and it included business representatives. Actually, again, We do understand that it is mandatory to involve businesses because this allows us to see the best ideas to improve cooperation between the authorities and businesses. It allows to find new initiatives, and the results of the study, results of the questioning shows that actually DOBRE program managed to involve business to planning, local economic development, because the results of the study showed that in 78% of cases, business was involved to the process of planning of local economic development. When we are talking about making some measures on local development, the results are not a really good percentage of involvement of business because the financial support was provided not to the business directly but to local self-governments in order to implement various projects. However, still, it's really nice that results of the study show that in 38 cases business was involved to co-financing these projects. That is requirements for the business to be involved in projects or co-finance the projects. There were no such requirements, but we see very good results, and that business was engaged in co-financing. Therefore, we understand that the business is ready to promote, to help local authorities in implementation of various initiatives. And of course, we understand that business should be involved in that. If we are also talking about involvement business, then I mentioned a bit about pleasant results, about good things that we managed to achieve. But of course, in order to maybe say what were the challenges there, I would like to mention a few challenges. Actually, if we are talking about the process of involvement of businesses and what the communities face most often is low motivation to involve to the processes of local economic development, and also the fact that it's not enough time for businesses to get involved into planning. So actually, it's very important. This is brief recommendation to local self-governments and local authorities. We all understand the business are busy people who are having their economic activity, and it's not always that they have time in order to get involved in various events. Therefore, in order to improve involvement of businesses, and what the studies show and the results of interviews with experts show, is that local authorities just need to plan that better. And very often there were some cases when events are planned in 1-2 days before they are conducted. They are calling businesses like Ivan or Petro, please do come, and they can't. And even when I was in communities, we came to communities to meet the working group from local economic development, and we are asking, where is the business? Because we want to hear their opinion. Of course, they did not come. They are working. Of course, we do understand that when businesses in the field, I mean agricultural business, they won't like to come and work on some other issues. So this is very important when we are talking about involvement from this side of business. It's very important to have a qualified planning of events so that business can come and join. And it's very important also when we are talking about conducting some events, meetings, negotiations, and so on, so that it's not a discussion club where we just talk and then we forget what we've been talking about. It's very important during all of such events to clearly understand and clearly write down what are the things that we agreed upon and stick to that. This is briefly about the results of the study, and I think that those who are interested, of course, those people will be able to read that in more details in the report. However, I would like to mention, to say just a few words related to recommendation to the communities, what they can do in order to support local businesses. On this slide, you can see what kind of tools are there for communities in order to support local businesses. So actually, this slide, it's not something that we just imagine. This is clearly in the law about SMEs. These are the tools clearly mentioned, so local authorities can use that with no problems. First of all, this is financial support. That is local authorities. They can provide like the aid that will be returned and the aid that won't be returned, subsidies, vouchers, grants, guarantees. That is, in the law, there is exhaustive list of tools of financial support for businesses. Also, informational support for businesses. This is actually very important. In big communities, very often they have centers for business support or entrepreneurship support. They are called differently. However, the experience shows that very often in small communities, people, the businesses, they don't always know about the opportunities that they've got. And even the experience of our program shows that the communities, like local self-governments in those communities who were making active informational campaign, they were telling the businesses that there is such a grant program where you can get grant for developing your businesses. So the communities that were active, that were helping the businesses, that were informing, so there's a lot of applications from those communities. We have one community where out of 43 projects, just 10 were supported, and we know that the community was very active. They informed, they conducted some promotions in order for businesses to know about this program. Also, one of the types of is always consultation support. This cannot be omitted in terms of our attention. And again, Markian was showing slides what were the benefits of the communities from DOBRE program. So we see that consultation support is on the first place. So even not that much important is financial support as consultative support. So business should be supported. And as Ms. Lilia mentioned, like Yerobota, for example, program. So they know where they can submit some applications so that it's easier for them. And literally like 3 more tools that are mentioned in the law. We are talking about development of infrastructure, support of SMEs, again, business centers, business incubators, Center for Support of Entrepreneurship and Business. These are the important things that communities can do. Of course, not all the communities have resources and opportunities for that. And in this case, even if there is a person in the community who is responsible for working with businesses, and actually these are different types of consultation support, for example, that is provided by the person. And of course, also work related to support of exporters, organization of various study visits, trade missions, business meetings. These are also very important things for the business to be able to partner with other entrepreneurs. And of course, increasing qualification of the personnel and experience of the program shows that that's important. That's necessary. We are talking also about cooperation with some people with technical education, especially when many communities are left and businesses lacking some stuff. So it's very important to do this so that there is a business that is functioning. And at the end, a few words I would like to mention, like the main recommendation for the communities that when you plan working with a business, when you want to define what events are there to support the businesses, meet the businesses, conduct some negotiations, some discussions, because this will allow to choose where business needs mostly support. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Volodymyr. Now we have the representative of Lubetsk community, Chernivtsi Oblast. This is a community that since 2016, from the very creation of those, was the bright example that one should help the person who wants to help him or herself, because they were not the partner of the community. They got involved much later, and now we are talking about the role of self-governments and involvement of investors and the grain corridor. So Grigory Vanzurian, the head of the community. Hello, everyone. The topic is incredibly interesting, and I would like to mention that indeed the community that had been created since 2015, and we joined the DOBRE in 2021, that is just in the 4th cohort, and what we started working on, thanks to representatives of DOBRE program and thanks to the consultants, this is local economic development and of course writing the strategy. And this is improving greatly communication with entrepreneurs, and it gave really good results. In 2021, we faced COVID. Chernihiv Oblast was one of the first to be the red color on the map of Ukraine, and local businesses were actively involved into helping the hospitals. We were in the mid of April, one of the three hospitals who had oxygen machines. So in brief time, with the help of businesses and local initiatives, we managed to do quite a lot. So also about the strategy. When we were developing our strategy together with DOBRE program, we were talking about uniqueness of our community. This is railway corridor, the crossing point, and actually the territory of the community is the railway corridor of our country to Baltic countries. And of course, it is clear that with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we were ready to offering to those who are trading grains. We were ready to offer them to use our opportunities, and we were ready to become kind of the economic forepost for solving the issues that are being solved today. This is trade of agriculture products. I would like to thank the organizations and the companies who did not take the money from the country in difficult times, but they are investing in business. They see some prospects, and thus they are working, and they are making our victory closer and closer. On this slide, we can see the general characteristics of how many private entrepreneurs. We don't see anything. Please show us the slide that you're talking about, because we see just the first slide. Just the first, yeah. Just a second. I will try to change that. Yeah, here we have the first slide. Somehow I cannot share that. Just a second. So, okay, I will do it this way. Wonderful. Yeah. This is brief information about our community. And during the full-scale invasion, approximately 2,000 to 212 people were registered as IDPs in our community. However, if we are talking about the transition, because the crossing point, Horugna, is not far from us, we had much more. So the community was really helping the internally displaced persons. If we analyze as of today, present representatives, business representatives, according to the number of jobs, then mostly we have like partially local businesses and partially logistic companies who started working from the beginning of the full-scale invasion. And this is Levada company, Magastry. This is Hegelman Transport. Ukraine is a big company who is working in logistics, and they brought their capacities from Poland to Ukraine. And also the terminal for the Serets, they were founded by a big group of enterprises, Alibor Group. This is a big grain trader who is working in the framework of within Ukraine. And at present, they started investing money for agricultural products. If we talk about the role of and involvement of investments, then of course the group that was created thanks to DOBRE program, those in the village council involving entrepreneurs, we created the Department of Economic Development and Investments, and these joint steps gave us the opportunity to involve and gave us the opportunity to offer on this stage, to offer the opportunities that we had. As of today, The grain corridor works perfectly. This is again the terminal that I mentioned, and it gives us the opportunity also to have some additional logistical roads for Ukraine and logistic roads for trade. I would like to mention that, of course, at present, we'd like to thank the experts and those who are helping. In spite of full-scale invasion, we feel support of DOBRE program, we feel support of other foundations who did not leave us one-to-one with the aggressor, and they are helping us. So briefly, this is the information we continue to work. This is not just one terminal on the territory of our community. Already we produce documentation in order to create 6 big terminals like that will give us the opportunity to increase the potential of Ukraine, and they will give us the opportunity to cover, so to say, our corridors that are not longer available. Mr. Grigori, how Hlebetska Council promoted the investor to come to the territory of your community? Well, first of all, we were ready, because we've been working even before working on our strategy. We were trying to find some places. We were ready, so to say, to form logistics centers and the relevant places where we were planning that we have to have such things there, because we have land, we have the narrow gauge, and there's opportunity that we can use that. We are in the process of writing the strategy, in the process of writing the program for economic development, and we have selected the land plots already. So that is, we were one step away from that. We were prepared how we are gonna develop these directions. And when we've got investors, then at least this strategy became one of those who were in the base for the future enterprises and showing certain land plots. And this allowed us and the investors to work quickly with Ukrzaliznytsia, because there are certain issues about the transport pathways, and the long multimodal terminals that was adopted in 2021 was helping us greatly with that. And if the first investors came to us on the 1st of April 2022, then the first transport loads were on the 15th of October 2022. That is, it was incredibly fast. Under the conditions of war, we had to build that quickly and to start working, well, and via the prism of the yesterday's meeting with the of the presidents of Romania and Ukraine. I think that during those meetings, the issues that were discussed were not only military support to our country, but also expanding transport corridors was discussed, because seeing how other countries of Europe are treating with the last events, just Romania is saying that the corridors are working and they're ready to expand those. Thank you very much. So the main stress that I've heard is that you should always be ready to meet the investors, because as of today, there are many people who are just going to start working on involving when they find investors, and your community, they were ready. And that is why you managed to launch your work so fast. And I would like to mention that in 10 minutes, we go to questions and answers. So those who want to ask question in person, online, just get ready and press the button to raise your hand so that we can see who wants to ask the question. And while you're getting ready, we are talking about what are the approaches to planning the recovery of economy of communities that should be used during the war. So the specialist on economic development of the PEAR program, Ukraine Global Communities, Petro Lazarchuk. Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity to share certain thoughts. Markian and I were working together on developing our report. And actually, I would like to mention that I have quite good results, I guess, for all of us that gives us some hope. However, I would like to say that the results are saying that we will have a lot of work. With one hand, we will have to help our army and to fight, and with the other hand, we will have to rebuild our country, and we should do that not after the war, but already now. So, Markian was showing this not really nice age and sex pyramid, and we have a few opinions what to do with that. It's not an exhaustive list, and here you can see I won't read all of the recommendations of ours. However, I would like to stop only on some of them to consider. Well, obviously, demographic situation, we all understand how it can be improved. And I encourage everyone to do this. However, there are different issues that local authorities, donors, maybe, I guess, also can impact. So we have to work in the communities where we can improve the situation. And I like to mention such an example that even in Chernivtsi Oblast, where we are working, some of the communities where they did not have much population, and now they don't have a free house, a single free house, because they accepted people who live in pre-front territories. That's not in each of the communities. However, such examples exist, and we also have to adopt certain programs and stimulus for young families, young specialists. We have to study experience of other countries, successful experience, successful expertise, and there is not many, because in post-industrial society, people are giving birth to less children, and people are breaking stereotypes, and we should break stereotypes with our work, and we have to create the stories of success that we have to implement and we can repeat in different other communities. We have to adopt programs that would stimulate enterprises in the problem communities, and I would like to confirm the thesis of our heads that now in Ukraine we have a really high level of entrepreneurship activities, even in pre-front regions. And honestly, this is a pleasant surprise, I would like to say. I will keep the intrigue, but I will just tell you a little bit about the Pearl program. We supported only each third project in the regions we were working. Therefore, the very important task for us is to support entrepreneurship initiatives, especially from young people. So these are interesting recommendations about forming new communities. What do we mean by that? There are villages where there are almost no people, and there is really low price for land. And actually, such a person with the average income or high income, they actually can buy the whole village. And we have some examples in Lviv Oblast when people are buying old houses, they are making reconstruction, they create new communities. And this might be one of the pilot projects that can be just done in different regions of our country. Some recommendations for local self-governments. Well, one important topic is investment into people, and this is recommendation for everyone. We have to teach our people, and especially the workers and local self-governments, how to work with the funds of international technical support with international partners. Maybe. Well, I know that some people have an illusion that big international money will come and somehow they will be distributed. Like, either it will be like proportionate distribution, or maybe because you have really beautiful eyes, But fortunately or unfortunately, this won't happen this way. Money will go there where people demonstrate good projects, where people can develop the projects, and you have to invest very important efforts to this already now. I thank very much the USA and USAID for supporting such initiatives, and also from the interesting elements what we have to promote professional orientation of young people from the year of 5 or 7 at school. We have to promote entrepreneurship for IDPs, and we have to support export-oriented enterprises, because this is the money that is not leaving our community, but that is coming to our communities, and this money stimulates the development, economic development. Unfortunately, I have no time in order to stop and talk in detail about all the parts, all the points. You can read that in the report. For the donors, we have the following recommendations. Well, just a simple recommendation. I don't know how real it is to implement that. Flexibility and fast procedures, because now time is human life. And very boring and not interesting it is to use that for bureaucracy. I'm sorry for saying that out loud. However, if somewhere it comes to the fact that I know that all the donors are working according to certain procedures, however, I think that it's really good to review how to reduce this. And of course, there should be a certain level of bureaucracy, because we won't be able to move without it. However, it will be really good if the time for making decision of certain applications would be shorter, because sometimes it might last up to a year, and under the conditions of war, it's too long actually. It would be good if financial support is concentrated, at least was distributed not on the level of regions, but on the level of communities, so that communities have more access to such financial support, to have balance between soft and hard components, because the city has, I guess they will support me in my position. Yes, we do know that it is very important to invest into people and soft components. However, when the program provides for only soft components, let us say so, and having no opportunity to apply your knowledge in practice, that's a bit wrong, and this reduces the level of enthusiasm for people. And again, investments into people who can implement some development. I would like to mention one more thing, which is not mentioned here. However, it's very important for us to learn about the culture of corporate management, and I think that it's the topic for maybe some other programs, or maybe a separate topic of a big program where we can all together learn the culture of corporate management, because unfortunately in Ukraine, due to some subjective reasons, it's a bit low still. Few recommendations for our government. A lot of things were mentioned already, recommendations. However, we think that now we need a lot of programs in various fields, including in the field of business support grant programs that will provide for not only the hard component, but even some percentage, maybe at least, of soft component, where the business can hire consultants, go and learn experience, to participate in exhibitions, develop certain promo materials, and so on and so forth. It would be really good if we improve coordination of various directions of activities among the profiled ministries and departments who are working with the local economic development, where simplification of regulation procedures, everybody's talking about that, and we will mention that as well. Target programs in order to support young entrepreneurs, veterans, their family members. And here I would like to stop on programs for small farmer enterprises, family enterprises, so that we have some bigger fragmentation, so to say, for small agricultural producers and not agro holdings, and modernization of the system of professional education, because we will need a lot of qualified specialists in various professions. Yeah, you should come to an end. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. I would be glad to answer all the questions. Thank you very much. And as far as we switch to questions and answers, I would like to mention, to continue the topic that you just mentioned, Mr. Petro Oksana Kovalchuk wrote such a question. I don't think it's a competency of Ministry of Infrastructure, but I'm confident, Ms. Natalia, you know where to refer that. In the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, the craft production is well developed for to international markets. It's hard to get certificates and some documents in Ukraine. It would be really good to have a clear algorithm of such documents. I was organizing the exhibition in Brussels, and due to the complicated receiving of the documents, it is hard to get. Is it possible to simplify the receiving documents, or at least have a clear algorithm how we can get the documents? Again, I know that it's not a question to Ministry of Infrastructure. I think it's first of all the issue for the Ministry of Economy. It's not because I want to give this work to them, but it's like responsibilities. But I think we should be really patient here, because the way we are moving on, I mean the EU, it will be quickly organizing standards, including standards of the products that should be in line with the European products, and it will allow us to go to the new market. So I think the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Recovery, in our part where we were mentioning about construction materials and recovery. So in this part, we have already started, and we will be working actively, and we are looking for some people who can help. I think that a very good partner here might be the trade chambers, industrial chambers, and also our embassies, who due to certain economic departments, they can become an additional engine of promoting the products on external markets. So I think it's a combination of diplomacy and economy at the same time. Thank you very much, Ms. Natalia, and especially for Volodymyr Petrov, who was writing us in the chat. And he was asking where we can read reports of DOBRE program. I would like to mention that today or tomorrow on the website of Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, Mr. Volodymyr, or on decentralization website, these reports or maybe even presentation of today's speakers will be presented. So go there and read. Girls, please tell me, are there some people who want to ask questions online? Please turn on. Hello, please present yourself, who you are. Can you hear us? Hello. My name is Nadia Kalinchenko. I am from Znamenka, Kirovohrad Oblast, and newspaper Znamenka Information. I have a question to Mr. Brian, and the question is as follows. What projects implemented in the communities of DOBRE program from local economic development Mr. Brian considers most efficient or most successful? For example, those that can be used by all the communities. Like the best.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for your question. I'd like to refer the question to our colleague who's working directly with your community in the area of local economic development. That's Vitaly Yurkiev. Please, Vitaly.
Так, будь ласка, мікрофон Віталію Юрків.
Sure, please give the microphone to Vitaly Yurkiev. He's the expert of local economic development of DOBRE program. You can come to us. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you as of now. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Brian. As for the most successful, they are different, you know, these projects. And as a rule, they support priorities of the communities. I can recall the very popular projects on creating designs of spaces, public spaces. These are territories near the water, near the ponds, the central squares, parks, markets. And these are places where people can just rest and have comfortable time. And also they like local entrepreneurs can conduct their activities. There are very popular projects on supporting agrarian sector, for example, creation or development of some corporate offices. There are projects. There's a lot of projects in our communities. We were helping to create co-working spaces, and in these co-working spaces, communities were procuring. We were helping the communities to procure equipment, professional or half professional, for supporting youth and their professional orientation, as well as providing access to local enterprises to this equipment in order for them to be more successful in their business projects. Also, among the projects that were really popular, there are soft projects that are about manufacturing, for example, making some general plans of settlements or making some spatial plans. So now we are implementing the pilot project, and we are observing the results that were achieved in the last few years. In this direction, we are working with a consultant, and we will make conclusions. We will draw conclusions. Maybe we will offer some additional support to our communities in terms of this, because the topic of creating complex plans of special development of territorial communities is now very relevant. The resources that we've got as of today, for example, in the framework of local economic development in DOBRE, we won't be able to cover everything with the funds that we have. However, we can try with the communities to implement separate stages of such projects in order for the community to add, for example, their own resources, find some resources from their donors, and they can come to create a complex plan of development of their territories. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. We have a question from Facebook, Mr. Vitali's strategy of Luhansk 2027. Do you plan to provide systemic expert plan to communities, the settlements of which are ruined or destroyed in full? And how do we determine whether there is sense to rebuild those, and what are the prospects of their economic development? It's a very complicated question, and I don't know whether we have someone who can comment on that here. Well, look, let us say so. If we are talking about such document that has to be developed on regional level, then of course, first of all, this question should be asked to Oblast military administration. However, the question is very complex, and as of today, it has been asked by heads of communities. Mr. Andriy, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Andriy Kolomitsa, when he was talking, we have to think what we are rebuilding, how we are doing that, where we are returning people to. However, if it's just a connection between the strategy of the region and the strategy of the territorial communities, then first of all, it's responsibility of the regional authorities or local executive bodies. There's no doubt that this is shown by practice of European Union. We have to take it into account. We remember very simple formula that Europe is the United Regions, I would like to say it's not the United Countries, but United Regions. And if we are looking at use of such funds that we are truly hoping in a quick perspective will be available for us as a fund of regional policy or other, they are providing for interaction among the European Commission as a main player and the region. I would like to bring a very simple example. Poland, just like us, has a state strategy of regional development. However, in the moment when they are taking money from certain regional funds of European Union, there's interaction between regional authorities, that is, the city administration directly, and money for the priorities of the administration, of course, with interaction. Let us say so. This framework should be joined for everyone, and then each region will be different. And this was mentioned by all the experts today. Here, if I took this microphone, I would like to mention one more word, because Mr. Andriy mentioned that an experts who were presenting recommendations, of course, there's lack of synergy that you are mentioning between the strategy, state regional strategy, and also some branch strategy, state strategy of regional development. If we want it to be a pointer, so to say, from the point of view of reconstruction and recovery, economic growth, as well as the tool, or I will say it's a tool that will make us closer to European Union, that it has to have one more component, the strategy, branch strategies or sectoral strategies, as we call them. They should be in line with this general framework. That is, if we are talking about the fact that education, health, social services, any field that we take, it should be synchronized. Why did I start so far? The ministry understands that clearly. Ministry has started work with sectoral ministries in order to find the maximal mechanism of synchronization. And the first mechanism is actually most of the documents that will be updated right now. They have one-time horizon. Yeah, it's not that big. It's 2027. I understand that. That's not much. And if we would have had specialists on strategic planning here, they would say that it's too small. However, this horizon allows us during war and for the beginning of reconstruction to talk about complex approach and unified approach from different ministries and departments. This has to be taken into account. Ms. Natalia, the question is to you for sure. Unfortunately, the person didn't mention the name, but we created the program of local economic development where we described in detail at least 3 priority projects. DOBRE will help financially to support one of them. Can we ask support from the CLEAR project? If yes, then how we can make that properly? Look, the project, the mayor, is nothing else but local target program. In our understanding of legislation, we have to understand that now the project of local economic development will not always equal the recovery program. I think that specialists on economy who are here today, they will agree with me, because for the rear areas or territories, this will be the same, because the program of regional development is like equals the recovery as such. However, if we are talking about, and today, excuse me, I am afraid to make a mistake, Ms. Liana mentioned, if we are talking about reconstruction projects that will be also available or that will be presented via DREAM program or DREAM tool, the project for recovery that received the first financial resources, let us say. So we have to understand that here the ministry clearly follows methodology that was processed together with the World Bank. What is considered to be the priority from the most priority from the point of view of recovery, and what is the way for implementing those? So I would say that to CLEAR you can apply there, and I would wait for the DREAM system at the beginning of November. I won't like to present the date because it might be changed. However, I think in the first decade of November there will be official launching of DREAM system. There will be clarifications how to work with the system, and not just this, because we will also offer some systemic training, getting acquainted with this tool for local authorities. The ministry came, for example, to projects of technical support, including Mr. O'Brien and the team of DOBRE project, so that in the moment when certain projects will be implemented, they might be shown in DREAM system, and that we have this trip together, so to say, and communities learn how to position that better. This is brief answer to the question of the miss who decided to stay incognito. Thank you very much. And probably the last question for today to experts. Marina Dudyak is asking, tell us, please, how do we understand what kind of idea is that? Improving service, creating conditions for improvements, the field, just the business field. I think that Ms. Marina thinks that experts understand what she is asking about. I guess in presentation you were talking that among the ideas that communities can implement on their territories, like improving services, and obviously those who listen us, they didn't quite understand what does it mean, improving the services, what does it include? Look, the project on supporting or promoting local economic development shouldn't always have the name that you mentioned. The name is important, however, it's not the priority because the core is the priority. What is the project about? The project of local promotion or like development, it has to stimulate certain economic processes. And the more practical it is, the better. For example, on the level of city council, you can adopt a program supporting some youth enterprises or stimulation of development of jobs or creation of jobs and how 100,000 for one job and conditions 50-50 finance in the year, like 10 jobs, for example. There is successful practice in Ukraine. It works. And I encourage everyone to try that. For example, then other example of the project. It is possible to get two entrepreneurs and make a 3-day trip on certain specialized enterprises according to the priorities of the community, for example, agriculture, production, or light industry, show the best practices. This will also be a soft project supporting local economy, that is pretty easy and not hard, even not using the funds from the local council. It's just the city council can be the initiator of such a project. And it is possible to find money from other projects. Thank you very much, Mr. Petro. And I guess we have one more question. And Mr. Vitaly Yurki will be able to help us with this. Is there cooperation possible between the communities in the economic field, pluses and minuses of this kind of cooperation? Yes, we have separate component even in DOBRE program that is working on giving knowledge how to organize inter-municipal cooperation, and we have experience of supporting projects between 4 communities in Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast. They decided together to implement project on developing local economy, namely development of touristic infrastructure. They made agreement of inter-municipal cooperation from our side. We were supporting both them technically and financially. Therefore, the scheme does work, and I encourage to consider such options. I would like also to pay your attention to the fact that this kind of cooperation should not always be among the communities that are neighboring. Why not have virtual cooperation with the communities that you need? So we can help you with the consultants if you need. This is a separate discussion, virtual cooperation, I guess. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Vitaly. And now, for sure, the last question in the room. Just take the microphone, please. Oleg Boychun, Betafond. So actually what Vitaly mentioned, my question was as follows. Look, in the study it was mentioned that we are stepping aside from economy to social economy. That is, as of today, when the military came from war and he has to go to the psychiatrist, where do we have social psychology? What about the family? Whom he's going to live with and so on. And the topic that you mentioned, Vitaly mentioned, and everyone, as of today, IT technologies of Ukraine are on the second place. So we have these interactive maps, so where there are pharmacies and everything, and we include social psychology. They are not medical, and the topic of social psychology is supported by our deputies, and we, like with the deputies, with the Federation of Employers, those who are going to create the social, who can answer that we are ready for such cooperation as IT technologies. Thank you very much. It's more like not the question, it's more like the offer, that we should take into account. And I think that experts who are working each in their field and everyone, they will know that you're ready for cooperation. We are ready. We have all of that already. Thank you very much. The time of our meeting, our expert discussion comes to an end. I thank very much to DOBRE program, USAID for organizing such an event. Thank you, the ministry, for finding time for us. And of course, thank you very much to the armed forces of Ukraine that we have the opportunity to come together like this. See you.